everybody. Welcome to our fan fiction episode.
Hello, here we go. Fanfic Fridays,
Fanfic
number
Fridays.
one.
So how this is going to work today is our producer Ben has sent us a bunch of fan fiction to choose from. Paul has skimmed a couple of little things. He's going to pick one, and we're basically going to do a cold reading. I will not have seen this, and he will not have done a detailed read. So we're all going to take this ride together, and good luck, everybody.
Yes. Okay, the first one that we are going to read is called The Time They Need. The author's name is Claire de Lune.
It was published April 22nd, 2012.
And the description is, after Michael escapes from Sona, Michael, Sarah, and Lincoln try to rebuild themselves. Post-season 2, alternate canon, Michael/Sarah.
You want to start reading? Shall I start reading?
This is called The Time They Need by Claire de Lune. 10 seconds. It's the time Michael needs to wipe away the rain that blurs his sight, let his eyes get accustomed to the darkness of the long passageway, and realize that Fox River almost looked like a civilized place. He doesn't know if he'll be able to survive here. He doesn't know if he'll be able to get out of here. He doesn't know in which condition he'll be if he ever gets out of here, but he knows this is for Lincoln and Sarah, and he starts walking into the shifting shadows.
Can I stop you right there? I love the in which condition he'll be, the grammatical accuracy of that. Thank you, Claire de Lune. As you were. Go on.
You go.
Okay, 10 minutes. It's the time Lincoln needs to follow and catch up with the guy who is following Sarah since she has left the police station downtown. The man has company written all over him, and without a word, without a question, Lincoln begins to hit him.
Ooh.
First, holding him against the wall, damn, then bending over him when he slumps to the ground. He's careful not to inflict any fatal wounds, but he strikes and punches with enough enthusiasm and determination for the other man to pass out for a while. Because this is the way he takes care of those types of problem. And because after the events of the last few days, he really needs to unwind. In circumstances like these, a company man is almost a gift from heaven.
Take that personally, but I wasn't in the company. Okay.
Were you
Sarah,
not in the company?
No. Sarah came back. She's leaning against the dirty wall on the other side of the alley, slightly bent forward, hands on her knees. Once or twice, she tries to stop him with, "That's enough, Lincoln."
That's enough.
But
Lincoln.
she quite lacks conviction. Lincoln assumes that she understands what he's feeling, the anger rising, boiling, and becoming blind rage with only one possible outlet. She used a hood string. He uses his fists. But in both cases, the intention is the same, getting even.
Fair
He
point.
finally hears her when she tells him they're going to draw attention. He grabs her arm and they run as fast as possible, as far as possible from the company guy. When they finally stop, she bends forward again and tries to catch her breath. After a few seconds, she straightens up, rummages through her purse, and hands Lincoln a small bottle of water. He takes it with a bit of surprise, and then with gratitude, when he realizes how thirsty he is. Your brother
is an idiot.
You don't really think that, he says, handing back the bottle.
Right now?
He remembers Michael taking off his blue overalls and proudly showing off the tattoo. He imagines Michael kneeling with his hands on his head and confessing for Kim's death. Yeah, right now, Lincoln thinks Sarah is pretty right. Whoa.
Did somebody just tell us we needed to do another take? I just heard a please try again from
It
an
was
automated
my
voice.
phone for some reason, even though I'm...
Amazing.
Yeah, okay.
No, I love it. We're getting acting notes from your phone. Thank you,
Okay.
AI. Stand
He
up.
remembers Michael taking off his blue overalls and proudly showing the tattoo. He imagines Michael kneeling with his hands on his head and confessing for Kim's death. Yes, right now, Lincoln thinks Sarah is pretty right. I'll try to get the boat back and then we'll think about a way to, he tells her, part question, part offer. She merely nods her head.
10 nights. It's the time Lincoln needs to stop wishing he can throw Sarah overboard and weigh anchor as fast as possible. Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. 10 seconds, 10 minutes, 10 nights. Really. Sarah isn't unpleasant. Efficient, patient, reliable. Once or twice, she even managed to make him smile, which in this day and age is no small victory. But sharing the tiny space aboard the Christina Rose 2, he baptized the damn boat Christina Rose 2, with her reminds him of the time he had to share a tiny apartment with Mike. She can be as an obsessive fusspot as his brother. Fusspot! I love that. Prettier to look at, though, but this is something he can't and won't do. And moreover, she has the bad taste of being right. They're aboard a small boat, a place for everything and everything in its place.
Nice.
They lack information. Gather it and don't rush. They still have killers after them. Keep their heads down. They can't rely on anybody but each other. Do not disappear with 2 hours with no warning, for God's sake. He could go on. The nights are the worst, because if the boat is anchored, they lie in beds that would make bunks at Fox River look almost fancy. They're on either side of the cabin, separated by nothing more than 2 or 3 feet, and he can hear her breathing near him. Quiet, controlled, smooth. Not even a sigh when he rolls over for the 50th time in 10 minutes and makes creak and squeak in his narrow bunk. Just on some nights, a question, a bit sarcastic. Want an infusion? As if he was the kind of guy to drink such things. I think that means like tea, right? Infusion.
This, I think Claire de Lune is British, given fusspot.
Fusspot.
Given something, she used the word, he or she used the word quite.
Yep.
In a way, and then the infusion is a dead
as
giveaway,
opposed to like
too.
a blood infusion. Right. Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
Sometimes he thinks that the only reason he hasn't thrown her overboard and weigh anchor as fast as possible is because ...
Ah, you can sail.
I'm a governor's daughter. I can ride a horse, play the piano, and sail.
But you can't cook? Not really?
No, but I can take care of you if you get sick after you ate my cooking.
It's funny. Because, yes, Michael can sail, was able to sail, will be able to sail, whereas this is, no surprise here, something Lincoln has never learned. But tonight, when Sarah snatches a pillow, she discovers the small bag that waits for Michael, and for a few seconds, she stares at the clothes and miscellaneous essential items with as much sadness as determination. For the first time in 10 nights, rather than wanting to throw her overboard, Lincoln lays a hand on her shoulder and doesn't say a word. A couple of hours later, he heavily rolls around on his bunk, makes the spring squeak. Sarah sighs noisily, sits in her bed, and swears like a trooper when she hits her head. Will you stop doing that, please? She asks with exasperation. 10 hours. It's the time they need to find him, bring him aboard the Christina Rose II, and take to the open sea after he broke out of Sona. They're fast and swift. They're becoming good at it, and if the situation were different, she would almost be proud of all of them. But considering the situation, a wounded fugitive, a former death row convict, and her, stuck aboard a small boat in the middle of nowhere, a lethal organization hot on their trail, it's probably wise not to gloat. She helps his brother to get him out of the car and along the pier up to the boat. There, the space is so narrow, their movement so constricted, that she'd rather step aside and let Lincoln, half dragging Michael, half carrying him, lie him on the bunk she usually sleeps in. The sun is setting quickly. The light is already bad. She can't see everything, and, to be honest, as long as possible, she tries not to notice some of the details. But very soon he's lying on the bed, his eyes shut, and she cannot not notice. He's become awfully thin. The flesh under his eyes is blue and hollow. He has severe cuts and bruises over most of his arms and hands. She fears what they will find when they undress him, and she delays that moment as long as possible.
Okay, wait, hold on. I just want to recap so I understand what's happening. They have stolen a boat, christened a boat, floating on the boat, finding Michael 10 hours after he broke out of Sona. This is where we're at right now, right?
I think there was some kind of rendezvous, yes.
Okay, fair enough. Just want to make sure I understand what's happening.
I believe so.
Okay. In relative terms, his torso had been spared. His back is... There's a strange noise behind Sarah, and she turns around to look at Lincoln. He's livid, his eyes fixed on the contusions and laceration, on the skin that has gone red and yellow and purple between the blue lines of the tattoos.
Oof.
His Adam's apple moves up and down once or twice as he vainly tries to swallow and clear his throat. It's almost fascinating to watch a man who is usually able to thrash anyone without batting an eyelid, breaking down when facing the consequence of a beating. Will you give me the first aid kit, please? She doesn't allow herself to think about what she's doing, about the way the injuries must have ended up there. She concentrates on the job at hand, on the fact that she saw and took care of these wounds. Oh, on the fact that she saw and took care of worse wounds. on the idea that this is just another medical act to accomplish. She cleans, disinfects, lingers on a patch of burnt skin. It hasn't yet healed and is bleeding again. She stitches and doesn't pay attention to Lincoln, who is hovering behind her. Finally, he steps back and sits on the small couch, and she realizes that she has told him that he was in the way of the light and disturbed her.
Each of my acts is destruction, he murmurs.
She turns around with a start and meets his gaze. But she has no time to react because it is this moment Michael chooses to let them know he's conscious, meaning he's aware that he's being stitched up, even though she can only give him an analgesic with questionable effect. He hasn't said anything, and she grits her teeth. If he wasn't already in such a bad condition, she would definitely do something to make him regret that kind of an attitude.
I'm thirsty. Can I have a beer?
Sarah lets slip a crude sound. I don't know what that is. Something between a snort of derision and protest.
Try again. Snort of derision and protest.
No. Yeah, that. What you just did. There it is. It's too early for me to take acting notes.
Okay, sorry.
Water, she tells Lincoln, or some tea. And she doesn't need to look at him to know he's rolling his eyes. Man, there's a lot of tension between stuffy Sarah and rage-filled Lincoln on this episode.
It's great.
When she's finished nursing and dressing the wounds, when Michael has drunk his tea and is lying as comfortable as possible under a clean sheet, she leaves him with Lincoln and walks out. The air is warm and moist, but the sea breeze cools it a bit, and she sits on the rail enjoying. Her eyes closed, she tries to push away the image of Michael's wounds, disregard it, contain it in a small portion of her brain.
But it doesn't really work. The amount of information she can keep at large is limited, as well as the length of time she succeeds in doing so. If you fall into the water, I won't jump in and save you, Lincoln warns her.
That's nice, thanks.
Yeah. It's okay, I'll be fine with a rope or a life buoy. When she opens her eyes, she can see him in front of her, awkwardly shifting on his legs, a man of his height on a boat of this size. Poor guy. Don't you think he would have been destroyed if they had executed you? She shouldn't have to tell him that, should she? Or if they had locked you up for shooting that bastard. He agrees. But she understands the guilt. She really does. Actually, she feels it eating her and gnawing at her stomach. If Kim rose up from the dead and appeared in front of her, she would kill him again just because of the pain he caused. This time with her bare hands, so as to feel every breath leaving his body.
Damn.
It would be fair game. Doesn't make it
easier, huh?
She asks through her teeth. No. They keep their voices low. Not low enough, though. Maybe the wind carries the sounds towards the cabin, or maybe it's because the silence of the night is only troubled by the soft lapping of the ocean. But when they come back inside, Michael half opens his eyes and tells them in a sleepy voice, "You have to destroy before you can rebuild." It's just dandy then, because all three of them are, to various degrees, shattered into small pieces.
Sleep,
she softly answers.
You can philosophize.
She lies on the sheet next to him, crammed in the small vacant space. He turns his head towards her, buries his face in her hair, and breathes like a small animal looking for a familiar and soothing scent. She lays her hand on a spared part of his arm and a kiss on his temple. She can hear his breathing growing deeper and calmer, more even, and she smiles because she didn't know that she had such calming faculties. Neither her nor Michael pay attention to Lincoln when he points out that there is a third bed, and then asks why no doctor ever prescribed him that kind of treatment. End of chapter 1.
End of chapter 1.
That's a good piece of writing.
It is a good piece of writing. And I got to say, I think it's probably very honest. If you put Sarah and Lincoln on a boat together for any length of time, no matter how much they love Michael, at some point, they would both want to throw each other overboard.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think that's a really solid piece of writing.
It's a really solid piece of writing. And I like the way it sort of hint at what's happened without like, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. But it's like they're picking Michael up from Sona. Oh, I guess he escaped from Sona. Like, it's sort of teasing this stuff out.
Yeah, and I like the underlying theme about, destruction and redemption and violence, of course.
So that's where we'll leave it for today. Fishes, folks, and fanfic friends. Tune in next week for the thrilling conclusion of Claire de Lune's fanfiction. Or maybe it's not a conclusion. Maybe it's just the next chapter.
No, I think it's just the next chapter.
Outstanding. All right. This is like an old school, the way...
Serial, yeah.
Yeah, the way... Who was it? The best of times, the worst of times guy?
Charles Dickens.
Dickens.
So,
it's very Dickensian.
Big props to Claire de Lune. Claire de Lune, if you're listening to this, send us a DM. We would love to know like what the deal is, how you came up with this. It's fascinating. And if anybody out there wants to submit their own fanfic for us to read, you can email us at pppodcast@caliber-studio.com. You can DM us on Instagram at Prison Break Podcast, or you can read it to us yourself by leaving a message on our call-in line, 401-3P-BREAK, 401-3P-BREAK, and we will see you next week.
Prison Breaking with Sarah and Paul has been a Caliber Studio production. Your hosts have been friends but not besties, Sarah Wayne Callies and Paul Adelstein.
Our prison warden has been producer Ben Haber.
Keeping us slim and trim in the prison yard has been sound designer and editor Jeff Schmidt.
The manager of our Jailbird band is me, Paul Adelstein, who made all our music.
Yay! Our prison artist, logo, and brand designer is John Nunziato at Little Big Brands. Check them out at www.littlebig.brands.com.
And follow us on Instagram at Prison Break Podcast. Email us at pppodcast@caliber-studio.com. And call us at 401-3P-BREAK.
Prison Breaking with Sarah and Paul has been a Caliber Studio production. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.